Those suspects were arrested not far from this intersection, and a CMPD officer is recovering at a hospital this afternoon after a routine traffic stop turned out of the ordinary very quickly. The hospital's initial concern of a possible Ebola connection was justified, considering the disease's outbreak across Africa is the largest in its history. The disease has no vaccine and could go global. A leader with the Charlotte Chamber tonight told me the organization will not lead a support campaign for the county sales tax referendum, but will lead a support campaign for the city of Charlotte's bond referendum, which is also on the ballot. Last weekend's deadly shooting of an unarmed African-American teenager by a white police officer has the issue of police relations again at the forefront of a national debate.
CMPD is truly committed to making sure that we build relationships with our community.
Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Captain Stella Patterson said the department is proactive in eliminating perceived prejudices and biases while out on patrol. Since 2013, more than 300 of the department's leaders and academy recruits completed at least one of two courses, dismantling racism and implicit bias training.
In the class is a very open dialogue where everybody has an opportunity to talk about our history, to talk about how they feel, talk about race and how it affects how we do our job.
Captain Patterson said the training focuses on Charlotte's racial history and issues and works to eliminate age, racial, and cultural stereotypes. She believes officers who complete the training are better equipped to enforce laws fairly and equally.
And you start to ask yourself, what are my biases? What are my issues that I may not even be aware that I have? The class really fleshes that out.
Last month, the Charlotte City Council agreed to use nearly $100,000 in police forfeiture money to continue the classes for future recruits.
We are aware of and sensitive to a lot of the things that are happening right now across the country and in Charlotte, and we want to make sure that we are doing everything we can to provide a safe environment for the public and for our police officers.
And Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police said they have and continue to actively recruit members of the African-American, Latino, and Asian communities, so the department is as reflective as possible of Charlotte's diverse community. Reporting live at CMPD headquarters in Uptown Charlotte, Brad Broders, Time Warner Cable News. At times loud, at other moments reflective, those who attended tonight's gathering tried to really make sense of what they believed is yet another senseless killing of a young man by a police officer. With passions high, this crowd soaked in a difficult reality in the aftermath of Ferguson, Missouri.
It's scary because, I mean, it can happen to anyone, you know, regardless of your age.
A mixture of ages and races united together Thursday evening in wake of the killing of an unarmed teenager, Michael Brown, by a police officer in Ferguson, Missouri. A moment of silence honored the victim.
As a white man, you know, I have the same responsibility to protect my fellow humans and stand for them.
We're all humans first. Doesn't matter what color our skin is, and no one deserves to be gunned down.
Attendees, including Monique Sweeting, the mother of a teenager herself, said the latest shooting death at the hands of a police officer is yet another wake-up call.
So it's scary for me because my son is going into high school, and this is going to be his reality if changes aren't made.
Speakers demanded a better relationship between police officers and the public and argued against what they believe is too much racial bias and not enough transparency.
There is no reason why we don't have basic information about what happened to Michael Brown, a veteran.
Others believe Michael Brown's death is an important life lesson for parents.
I think it hits home because, you know, we have a lot of young people who may not know how to deal with a situation when they approach a police officer. What's the proper procedure and that type of thing. So I think we also need to educate our young people.
And nearly a year ago, Charlotte dealt with its own officer-involved shooting. Last September, 24-year-old Jonathan Farrell was shot and killed by CMPD officer Randall Carrick. Officer Carrick was later charged with voluntary manslaughter. Farrell's family has filed a wrongful death lawsuit. Both the civil and criminal trials are pending. Reporting in Uptown Charlotte, Brad Broders, Time Warner Cable News. While we wait for the names and charges of those suspects, CMPD leaders said while Officer Starnes' injuries are not serious, they could have been much worse. For Angelo Greer, the scene felt surreal in broad daylight near a major intersection.
Just gunned it. I mean, he came through here flying.
It wasn't just the speed of the car, but who was being dragged along with it. Charlotte-Mecklenburg police officer Richard Starnes.
Doing like 70, 80 miles an hour, and the police officer was holding on.
Charlotte-Mecklenburg police said Officer Starnes, a veteran on the force, stopped the car to investigate a possible assault in Sugar Creek Tuesday afternoon when things changed quickly.
Fortunately, it doesn't occur very often.
Authorities said the driver and passengers inside the car ignored Officer Starnes and took off, taking him along with them.
So in this case, you know, an officer drove across the intersection in the lunch hour and full of traffic. Of course, serious for us.
Police said Officer Starnes fell from the car on Reagan Drive. The car's rear tire ran over his leg.
A lot of road rash, from what we know. Of course, broken leg.
They took him off on a stretcher and put him in a head thing. I saw that his boot, his sole of his boot had, because he was dragging his boot, the sole of his boot had ripped all the way from the sole.
Police caught up with the vehicle and took 5 suspects into custody before 2 o'clock on Black Avenue. Witnesses watched a brief pursuit unfold in their neighborhood.
Yes, it was a little scary. Yeah, especially when I had my 9-year-old and my niece standing out there with me.
At 3:30, a tow truck took the suspect's car away. The people arrested didn't have much to say as they were led into CMPD headquarters. And CMP leaders also applauded several bystanders who assisted Officer Starnes as he lay on the concrete after that suspect's vehicle fled earlier this afternoon. Once we get more details in this case, we'll bring that information along to you. Reporting live at CMPD headquarters in Uptown Charlotte, Brad Broders, Time Warner Cable News. In a news conference this afternoon, SIM USA President Bruce Johnson choked up several times. He thanked staff at Emory University Hospital as Charlotte missionary Nancy Wright-Bowl settles in and continues her Ebola treatment in America.
Nancy has arrived safely.
Rolled in on this stretcher in a protective suit, Charlotte missionary and Ebola patient Nancy Wright-Bowl arrived Tuesday for treatment at Atlanta's Emory University Hospital.
And Samaritan's Purse and SIM are so grateful.
An emotional Bruce Johnson, president of SIM USA, updated Wright-Bowl's condition based on observations from her husband David.
And he said Nancy is still very weak. She shows signs of continued improvement. She's showing signs of progress and is moving in the right direction.
Wright-Bowl's husband reported Nancy ate and stood on her own briefly before getting on the plane in Liberia.
He said, you know, we still have a long ways to go, but we have reason for hope.
The Wright-Bowl family said they were grateful of the U.S. government, and despite Nancy's unknown length of treatment, they're relieved she's back in the United States.
A week ago, he said, we were thinking about a possible funeral arrangements. Yet we kept our faith. Now we have a real reason to be hopeful.
Johnson said the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention remain on the ground in Liberia, treating citizens and medical personnel for Ebola, even though they're still investigating how Wright-Bowl contracted the virus.
To date, we have not got a confirmation of where exactly that contact happened.
And Wright-Bowl's sons Jeremy and Brian are near their mother in Atlanta, looking through a window in an isolation unit where she's being treated for Ebola. Wright-Bowl's husband David is expected to join the family in the coming days. Reporting in the Charlotte newsroom, Brad Broders, Time Warner Cable News.